Your audio is muted, but we're recording everything, so don't feel like you can't participate. For example, if you like something, you could give a thumbs up. Or, as some people did, 2 thumbs up. You could clap to the left. You could clap to the right. You could raise the roof. You could make a heart. You can even do the Arsenio. And you can definitely smile and laugh. That's awesome. I think that's done.
Hello, my name is Connie Laurin-Bowie. I'm the Executive Director of Inclusion International. On behalf of the board and staff of Inclusion International, I want to welcome LiveWorkPlay to our global network. We're so happy to have you join and add your voices to the work that we do to change communities, to make them inclusive of people with intellectual disabilities and their families. I want to share with you a couple of things about the work that Inclusion International does, and to welcome and encourage you to participate in that work even in these difficult times. You may already know that Inclusion International is working in sort of 3 different areas. One is to have a global voice, to make sure that the voices of self-advocates and their families are heard in big decision making at the United Nations. We're part of the negotiations of the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. We made sure that the perspectives of people themselves with disabilities were heard in that process. And we've been advocating with governments over the last decade or more to make sure that those human rights are heard and understood, and that we aren't forgotten as governments move across different issues and areas. The second thing that we do is we use the global network as a place for people to connect, to learn together, to share what they're doing in their own countries, in their own communities. We're supporting our members to advance inclusive education in their own countries by giving them some technical cooperation and support, research, advocacy tools. We are doing the same around self-advocacy. In many parts of the world, there is no tradition of self-advocacy. There's no understanding of what self-advocacy means and how to support it. So we have an initiative that's led by self-advocates who are supporting groups of self-advocates to establish themselves and find their voice and be supported to make change in their own communities. Likewise, we are doing work on employment. So I think in many of the same issue areas we're working with LiveWorkPlay is focused on, we're really helping to use the knowledge that exists in our network globally and bring it to the needs of our individual members in different countries and support the work that they do. We've been hosting a series of webinars over the past 8 weeks or so, where it's quite amazing to see self-advocates, for example, I think it was on last week's call, who were talking to each other from Mexico, Romania, Malawi, Canada, and they were sharing the experience of what they're doing in their communities to reach out to each other, get information that's accessible, advocate to governments to make sure that programs are including them in their thinking about the pandemic. And that really is the core and the heart of what Inclusion International is about, finding ways to connect, making sure that our voices are heard and that we're together. We unfortunately have had to cancel our General Assembly, which was scheduled for later this year. Instead, we are planning to do a virtual General Assembly with some 2 virtual summits. One will be a summit for families, which is focused on families talking to each other and supporting each other in connecting, in having a vision for inclusion, in celebrating what families have always been in our movement, which is the core way that we make communities inclusive. And the second summit will be on self-advocacy, and it will be a continuation of the work that we've been doing since our last General Assembly to allow self-advocates to have a platform and talk to each other across the globe, find ways to share what they're doing, celebrate their work, stay connected. So I hope that we will be able to have you join any or all of those events. We're so pleased to share. This is our 60th anniversary, as I think I mentioned. And so we're so pleased to have LiveWorkPlay joining us. We're looking forward to your contributions. And if there's any way we can support the work that you're doing in Ottawa, we would be pleased to share what's happening in other parts of the world. So good luck with your AGM. Please stay in touch. Look to our website, inclusioninternational.org, and we're happy to have you part of the family. Thanks so much and good luck.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alastair McAlastair Ghartey from the LiveWorkPlay employment team, and I am honored to share a brief message with you tonight. I would encourage all of the LiveWorkPlay community to visit liveworkplay.ca and read the blog post titled "The Struggle for Racial Equality is Inseparable from Disability Inclusion and All Human Rights Movements." And I wanted to say a few brief words about an important figure in Canadian history who was mentioned there. Order of Canada recipient Rosemary Brown came to Canada from Jamaica in 1951 and studied social work. During the 1960s, she became active in provincial politics in the British Columbia area and became the first Black woman to sit in a Canadian legislature. She contributed so much to Canadian society, including here in Ontario, as she was the head of the Ontario Human Rights Commission. She also left us with this powerful quote that concludes our June 4th blog, which gives meaning not only to the issues of racial equality, but also to our mission and vision for people with intellectual disabilities and autistic persons. Until all of us are free, none of us are free. Until all of us have made it, none of us have made it. We must open the doors, and we must see to it that they remain open so that others can pass through. Thank you.
Please note that for Zoom events like this, remaining seated during the national anthem is just fine, but please remove your hat, and if you like, you can place your hand on your heart, or you can make a heart with your hands. But we ask that you not leave your screen during the anthem.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all our common. Car ton bras s'est porté l'épée, il s'est porté la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending the LiveWorkPlay Annual General Meeting 2020, our 25th year of helping the community welcome people with intellectual disabilities, autistic persons, and individuals with a dual diagnosis to live, work, and play as valued citizens. Don't worry if you can't see me. I'm in a little box somewhere just like you, and you'll see me in full screen later for the report on communications. Obviously, we are doing something a little different tonight with our first ever online AGM. One of those differences is that while normally the chair or co-chairs of the board would move us through the agenda, I will be doing that tonight as secretary to the board and wizard of the Zoom. My first official duty is calling the meeting to order. Done. And now the opening remarks. One of the differences tonight will be when it comes to asking questions. If you do have questions, I'm going to ask you to type them in the chat box. Depending which type of device you are using, you will find the chat feature either at the bottom of your Zoom window, or you might need to swipe left, right, up, or down, but it's there. Also, if you can't figure it out, everyone, including our special guests, are committed to responding to you, whether it is during the meeting or afterwards. So just send me an email if you need more information about anything discussed tonight. You did get a great question in advance from Nancy Brody about employment supports in terms of what has been happening in recent months and how we are evaluating the current and future labor market and supporting our members to adapt to a shift in demand for the types of jobs available in the community, changing workplaces, including work from home, and other issues. It's an ongoing conversation. Anna Nelson and I mentioned to Nancy We'll be inviting conversations about this in the near future with our members and families, so please stay tuned for that. So the AGM agenda is on the screen. You may or may not be able to view it on your screen, but it's going to be roughly 90 minutes. It would be closer to an hour as it is most years, but the board has just completed work on the Vision 2020 strategic directions and are launching into a new planning process. So we do have a presentation of about 25 minutes from our planning coach, Mike Coxon, that accounts for the extra minutes. But we think it is important to include everyone and set the stage for upcoming conversations about the priorities that you'll learn about later this evening. We're going to keep things simple and use a classic show of hands by voting members to move and second motions and to approve those motions. As we don't anticipate any complexities with the voting items tonight, if I can see that we have enough hands up to approve a motion, I'm going to declare it approved. If there is anything along the way where you want it registered in the minutes that you were against or wish to abstain from a vote, just tell me in the chat or send me an email and I will reflect that in the minutes. We will also have a video recording, so we will have an official record that shows that any particular motion was truly approved by a majority of members. So you don't have to take my word for it. We'll have the video evidence. In case you are wondering, we have up to 35 voting members every year. This year, a total of 34 were approved by the board. They include individuals supported by the organization, family members, volunteers including board members, community partners, and members at large. If you're not sure if you're a voting member, that means you aren't, because all voting members had a unique meeting registration and knew they were voting before they got here. I hope that covers the introduction, and now on with our first motions of the night.
All right, see if we can make this work. So the first thing I need is a motion to approve the agenda from any member, please. Okay, I'm going with Mary Ann. I need a seconder. I got Cooper. And I need an all in favor. The secretary is of the opinion there is a clear majority and the motion is approved. The next item is a bit odd because you already done it once, but going forward with the election and other important items, I need a motion now that we will continue to vote as I have described, which is with a show of hands on video. Will anyone move this for me? Okay, I got Marianne again. She's quick. Seconder, I got Brent. Okay, all in favor? Okay, it is the opinion of the secretary. We have a clear majority. Moving right along. We're going to finish this up. I need a motion for approval of the minutes from 2019. Anyone? Okay, Brent, done his homework. Very good. A seconder, we got Ross. And all in favor? Once again, seeing a clear majority. And what does this mean? So now we will have the report from the independent auditor, Ross Holmes. So thanks for your patience. When I switch back from myself to other people, it could take a second.
All right, well, thank you for inviting me to your AGM this year. I hope everyone is safe and healthy. I recently completed the annual audit for LiveWorkPlay. Once again this year, I'm able to provide a clean audit opinion on the audit financial statements for the period ending March 31st, 2020. As in prior years, not only am I looking at the financial information, the numbers, I also review the internal control processes that are in place within the organization. And at the conclusion of the audit, there were no significant deficiencies encountered during the course of the audit, and no suggestions for improvements to the internal controls for the organization. Everything worked as expected continuously throughout the entire audit period. So usually during the course of my discussion of these AGMs, I just take you through a high-level review of the audit financial statements. And I'm going to start with the statement of financial position. And as you'll see, not only on this particular statement, but also on the following one, the statement of operations, it's very comparable to the prior year. There haven't been significant changes from one year over to the next. So on the statement of financial position, the first thing you'll notice is that the cash position has remained very consistent with the prior year. It's the combined cash and the GIC that the organization held at year end total a little over $1.1 million. The receivable balances as well as the prepaid expenses for the year are very comparable to the prior year. No significant changes in the composition of the amounts or the amount as a total. After the cash position, you'll notice that the accounts receivable and the prepaid expenses have remained very consistent with the prior years. There's been no change in the composition of the amounts or the amount in total. And the total current assets are also consistent with the prior year, no significant changes. With regards to the capital assets, there have been no significant acquisitions during the year, and the decrease that you see in the net book value of the amounts is simply the depreciation policy that has been applied consistently with prior years as well. Down below, you'll see that the liabilities have remained very consistent with the prior year. There are no significant liabilities outstanding at year end, as LiveWorkPlay generally pays the amounts owed to vendors and suppliers on a very quick basis. All the amounts are current at the end of the year. In other words, they were all due within a 30-day period. There's a little bit more in deferred contributions than the prior year. This was just an external donation that was provided to the organization that was provided for a specific purpose, and therefore it's been deferred to future periods when it will be utilized. You'll notice that the net fund balance has decreased from the prior year by approximately $40,000. And as you'll see on the following statement, the statement of operations, this is due to the small deficit for the year. So speaking of the statement of operations, if you can turn to the following page, I think it's page 6 in your financial statement package, if you have it in front of you. Once again, the numbers are very consistent with prior years. The revenue figure is up approximately $80,000, primarily due to a little bit of an increase in the fee for services provided during the year, and a little bit more funding received from the province during the year. On the expenses side, once again, it has increased by about $70,000. No surprises. The significant expenses for wages, for example, is virtually the same as the prior year. Supplies are up a little bit, but not significantly, and same can be said for the other expenses, very comparable to the prior year. But overall for the year, there was a small deficit of a little under $40,000. The remainder of the financial statements, there's some information about the composition of the net assets for the organization, as well as the changes in cash flow for the year. It's there for information purposes. I don't really feel that it's necessary to really review those financial statements at this point in time. But there's a fair amount of information attached to the financial statements in the notes section of the financial statements. As I always say every year, there's a lot of information in there. If you have a chance to review the notes attached to the financial statements and you have any questions, please feel free to forward them directly to me or through Julie and Keenan, and I'd be happy to answer those questions. Basically, they're divided into two components. The first section is just a review of the accounting policies used in the development of the audit financial statements. There have been no changes from the prior year. And then there's a few notes attached that just provides a little bit more information about some of the numbers that I've already spoken about in the statement of financial position and the statement of operations. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me at your convenience. Thank you very much.
Okay, so far so good. Can you hear me? Excellent. So really, the next item is just, I don't see any questions, and I think, not sure Ross was able to log in successfully, so he might be back later. If you have any questions, you can just send me. And right now, I just need a member to move for appointment of the auditor for 2021, which we'd like to be Ross and Holmes, the firm Ross and Holmes Accounting. And I see Brent and Daniel's got the seconder this time. And all in favor? Declare a majority, and the motion is approved. And shortly we got the welcome from the co-chairs.
So good evening. My name is Daniel Spagnolo, and I'm the co-chair of the board of directors for LiveWorkPlay. Greetings to all LiveWorkPlay members and supporters. Your board of directors serves as your elected stewards, accountable for steering the organization towards a sustainable future through sound governance practices that ensure ethical, regulatory, and legal compliant operations. So I'm happy to report that for the year ending March 31st, 2020, LiveWorkPlay was compliant with all legal and regulatory requirements. The board of directors, which constituted 7 members this past year, includes a stewardship committee and a governance committee. All committees, including the main board, met 11 times during the year.
Another significant part of our year was the strategic refresh. So in 2016, the board of directors had been involved in creating strategic visions that would guide us into 2020. Starting in 2020, January, the new board of directors has taken on a new strategic refresh to update our strategic directions and to make sure that the organization continues to remain vibrant and forward-looking. So the last 6 months, we've been heavily focused on being inward-looking into the organization, but also outward-looking to make sure that we are positioning the organization to be flexible, to deal with different changes, whether it involved the pandemic, whether it involved transformation in the employment sector or the developmental service sector, and basically to put the organization on some strong footing to deal with any challenges that we'll be facing over the next 3 or 4 years. The strategic refresh has involved, again, Mike Coxon from Third Consulting, and the board, despite the pandemic and despite some challenges of meeting in person, has been actively engaged over various meetings to continue that work. Mike Coxon will be on later in this evening to be able to talk a little bit more about the work actually done. Another key activity this year was the organization's recognition in the BOBS, the Best Ottawa Business Awards. And in November 2019, over 30 members and supporters of LiveWorkPlay attended the event, including family members, members of LiveWorkPlay staff, executive staff, multiple board members, past and present, volunteers, employment partners, and even more. This award was given to LiveWorkPlay for recognition of best not-for-profits in the city of Ottawa for 2019, and brought together, it was a great opportunity for LiveWorkPlay to get connected to a number of other employment partners and to develop that network even further. So the last key achievements that the board wishes to recognize is the fact that the employment team celebrated some huge successes this year, especially with having over 100 members receiving employment through the federal government. That's been a huge milestone and a demonstration of the dedication of the employment team. The board, additionally, the board wishes to recognize all of the hard work of the community connecting team especially over the last couple of months with the COVID-19 pandemic that has taken place here in Ottawa and around the world, in partnership with families to make sure that our members are feeling supported, feeling connected to each other, feeling connected to their community, and knowing that the organization supports them 100%.
So preparing for the 2020 LiveWorkPlay Annual General Meeting, 5 of our current board members have confirmed their intention to return for 2020-21 year. This includes myself, Daniel Spagnolo, and Michelle Doherty, as well as Christine Felteau, Kate Sherwood, and Robin McIntyre. The Governance Committee has been working very diligently on its recruitment of prospective board members and has identified 2 candidates that will be standing for election. Longtime volunteers Andrea Saldhana and longtime volunteer Carole Sheppard, who we think will be excellent additions to the board. On behalf of the board, we would like to take this opportunity to extend a sincere thank you to Bridget Fitzpatrick and Laurie Hogan, who are stepping down this year as members of LiveWorkPlay's board of directors. So Bridget joined the board of directors in 2016 and has been an incredibly valuable asset to the organization. Her knowledge of the developmental sector and her commitment to the values and mission of Live Work Play has been unparalleled and made her a key contributor to the board over the last number of years. Laurie Hogan joined the board at the end of 2018, coming from a healthcare background and involved with Live Work Play as a one-on-one match. Her commitment as a volunteer continued into her work as a board member. Despite having relocated to a different city, Laurie continued to show her dedication to the board at each and every board meeting, and most recently co-chaired the governance committee with Bridget. In closing, I'd like to thank the staff, our volunteers, members, and families, and our community partners for living the mission day in and day out with focused commitment and dedication.
Okay, thanks. We're zipping right along. Next is report from the Strategic Planning Advisor, Mike Coxon. Buckle in.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to speak at your annual meeting. As some of you, probably too many of you, are aware, I have a long-standing relationship with Live Work Play, and I would say just a real strong admiration for the work that you do. My purpose here this evening is to talk with you a bit about the work that I've been engaged with your board of directors and some of your staff in updating the organization's strategic plan. And as part of the presentation, what I want to do is talk to you a little bit about why we're doing this, what's happened since we last updated the plan in 2017, where we think the organization's headed over the next 3 years, what that looks like in terms of impact, what some of the challenges are going to be, and some of the broad strokes of the strategies with respect to how we're going to get there. And I'll finish off with a couple of comments with respect to the next steps in the process. So next up, what I want to do is to talk to you a bit about why the organization is doing strategic planning. As many of you are aware, there's a lot of changes in the policy environment, for instance, with respect to employment funding and developmental services restructuring. Frankly, we're not sure what some of those are going to be, but we know they're coming, and the desire is for the organization to kind of make the changes it wants to make rather than being a victim of change. The last plan was in 2017, and a lot's been accomplished, and we need to build on that. I think the other things that are happening are pretty evident right now, and that is whenever the pandemic ends, there will be a different kind of reality, and we've learned some stuff from our experience over the last little while. How can we come out of this stronger? And so the notion of the strategic planning process is also about bringing people together to talk about what has become a leaderful organization and how that continues in the near and longer term future. So that's kind of some of the driving forces. I want to shift over a bit and let you have a look at what's a pretty busy slide with respect to what the vision was for 2020 and some of the strategic directions. And as you'll see, the organization's been pretty thoughtful about the process that it's undergone in the last several years. And in our last strategic plan, we set a vision for 2020, and it really talked about increased partnerships, increased citizenship for folks with disabilities, engagement of families in the lives of their family members, but overall a reduced dependency on specialized services or Live Work Play as the sole supporter for people, and an increased emphasis on people participating in the life of the community, thus Live Work Play. And what you'll see in the slide is the various directions that were determined. This plan update is not unlike that one in terms of format. We've recrafted the vision and we've taken a look at some new strategic directions. But I just wanted to refer you to that to let you know that a lot's gone on. I'm pretty jacked about the work that's been done by LiveWorkPlay over the last 4 years. A lot of relationships have been formed with other organizations, and particularly when you look at the work that's been done with the federal government with over 100 jobs for folks with disabilities and autism, and you look at the rapport on the ground with multi-faith housing as an example, where people are living in community with their neighbors and are really actively participating in the life of residential community. And an example would be the Haven out in Barrhaven. Pretty good evidence on the ground of stuff that's been happening. I think you've all experienced the strong social media presence that LiveWorkPlay has, but beyond that, I think it's worth saying that there's a pretty significant presence across the province and probably nationally with respect to this organization in terms of the work that's been done and in terms of thought leadership. And that was intentional, it was thoughtful, and it provides a basis for where we're going to go over the next 3 years. I think the other couple things that I want to mention in terms of achievement at a very high level is it's pretty clear that LiveWorkPlay is a good place to work, and that the culture of the organization and the way it's evolved really causes the people who work there, both staff and volunteers, to act as leaders for community change. I don't think you see that in an awful lot of organizations. So I think that the way in which that's been done and the culture that's evolved is pretty much an example for other organizations. It's also something which won't continue to happen unless we work at it. That's something that we need to build on. And not last but not least, I think that especially in the area of the way in which people are supported through an approach called Just Enough Support, and also in terms of how people get and keep jobs, LiveWorkPlay has honed its methodologies on an intentional basis, and those methodologies are both having an impact and also showing the way to other organizations in terms of how things might be done. I just think the way it's learned and the way it's done things have evolved in such a way that other people are wanting to pay attention, and also it's producing results, which I think is really laudable. So anyway, I thought I would do a little cheerleading there before I got into where we're headed over the next few years. In terms of what we're doing with this strategic plan update, we've already done a number of the activities that are required. We're really at the stage where we're trying to pull things together and create an updated plan. But just in quick review, one of the things we did was we took a look at the impact the organization wants to have. We took a look at where it wants to be in 3 years, what some of the issues are that are facing us, what kind of pathways we want to take, and some of the shorter term 6 to 9 months actions that are going to be required to get us moving. So as you can see, that process of strategic planning is kind of dynamic. We're sort of replicating a lot of the methods that we used in the last update, but the content really builds on the shoulders of what's been accomplished so far. I want to shift now to take a look quickly at the mission statement for the organization and just make a couple of comments on the role that the organization has and the impact that it wants to have, because these things are really important. When you look at the mission statement, it really talks to helping the community engage with folks with intellectual disabilities. It looks at the removal of barriers, and it looks at the provision of supports to enable people to participate in the community. That's pretty unique around along the lines of a mission for a lot of developmental services organizations who see their business as providing service. In essence, this organization sees its business as removing barriers, and removing barriers might happen through service, might happen through partnerships, might happen through public education, but it's the community that changes, and people with intellectual disabilities and autism benefit and change along with it. So it's a lot less of doing to and a lot more of doing with. It's more of a collective impact effort. When you look at the benefit that the organization produces, and I think this is the way you gauge, is it worthwhile investing time and energy and support in? I think a lot of the things haven't changed over the years. It's a good life and a safe life as a member of the community for people with intellectual disabilities. It's peace of mind for families. It's connecting people. It's the development of social capital and relationships. And in terms of the whole community, it's a community which is enriched by people being citizens and contributors as opposed to clients and takers. So it's a net win. And the beneficiaries, for sure, are people with intellectual disabilities and their families. But the whole community benefits as well. So I think that's worth looking at, because really what we want to do is continue to aim the organization in that direction, having those kinds of impacts. So where are we headed? Where are things going for Live, Work, Play over the next 3 to 4 years? Now, we've taken a 3-year time horizon, and Lord only knows, how fast things will evolve out of the pandemic. But for now, anyway, we've called it Vision 2023. We're building on a strong foundation, but what we're looking at in the next 3 years is better personal outcomes for the people that are supported. That's the key part of the organization. We're also looking at scaling up and having a broader impact on people, both through increased direct service provision at a reasonable level, and that's a challenge. What's growth going to look like? But also by sharing some of the methods that Live, Work, Play has tested and is implementing successfully. Other pieces of our vision for the next 3 years is that we're looking at a more capable organization, particularly in the realm of evaluating and documenting what we do, and also in terms of continuing to build on the leadership capacity within the voluntary and the staff portions of the organization. So those are some of the things we're looking at in terms of achievements for 2023. And when you want to put a point on it with respect to what the success look like, it looks like more people having a good life and having better relationships with one another. It looks at an engaged and inclusive community. And it looks at the continuing evolution of Live, Work, Play as a sustainable thought leader and a leaderful organization. So that's where we're headed over the next 3 years, and I would suspect beyond. Now, it's fair to have lofty dreams, but there are some things that stand in our way, and we've chosen to look at those challenges or those issues as questions because, quite frankly, a lot of them are not problems that you can solve, but they're questions that you learn more about and you get better at dealing with them. So it's an ongoing kind of struggle, not a we'll fix this and then everything will be okay kind of scenario. And if you take a look at the slide that says taking stock, big questions and strategic issues, we did an awful lot of analysis of what's going on in terms of human services, how the community in Ottawa is changing, what the organization does well and where it might have some gaps where it maybe shouldn't try to get into things. And we came up with 4 key questions. And those are, how can we increase our sustainability and position ourselves in spite of the changes that are happening in the disability support system and the employment system? Probably in spite of it's the wrong word, but how can we work with those things instead of kind of fight against them? Because that change is inevitable. Secondly, how can we change our business model to work to our strengths and our assets? How can we build on our reputation? We know that, for instance, we've had pretty fair success with real jobs for real pay with the federal civil service, and also that just enough support is enabling us to think about new ways to support people's lives, to let them get on with it, and do it in a cost-effective way. As I mentioned before, a key challenge for the organization is that Live, Work, Play has good satisfaction from the people it supports, and it does a good job in the way it does things. But just going out and doing, quantum leaps more service is not necessarily a good plan, because the culture and the methods that enable us to be effective right now may be diluted if we do that. So we've got to figure out how to grow responsibly. And it could well be that growth doesn't mean that Live, Work, Play, serves massively more people all by itself. It's likely to mean that it sees more people supported in meaningful ways through partnerships with other organizations, which brings us to the fourth challenge, and that is, how do we build our interorganizational network of support? And that's an important piece, because we've discovered that good partners, for instance, the federal government in employment, or multi-faith housing with reference to housing, really enable so much more to happen for people than would happen if a social service organization just tried to do it all by itself. Having said that, working with partnerships with other organizations is a time-consuming activity, not necessarily something that's simple, and you don't always get your own way. So you have to pick your spots, and you have to really invest your time in managing those relationships. So picking the right partners, having patience, and as with any kind of relationship, working it on the ground day by day is going to be a challenge. One of the things that I want to emphasize, and I think the board and leadership of the organization agree with, is that there's no end of things that an organization can't do. But Live, Work, Play has an awful lot of assets or things that it can build on. And you'll see in the slide that says, what are our assets and strengths and competitive advantages? A number of those. For instance, well-known and a strong brand. Good focus in terms of what we want to accomplish. A capable team, capably led, capably governed, and strong partnerships and relationships. So those things all go to helping us kind of with the kind of challenges we want to take on. And when I speak of competitive advantages, I suppose it's true that when we say we can do those things, they kind of make us a good choice in relation to other organizations that might be asking to do the same thing. But I also think it makes Live, Work, Play an attractive partner for other organizations, or an attractive place for businesses to invest, because there has been this track record and capability. So where are we going in terms of strategic directions and action plans? What I want to do at this point in time is touch briefly on each of the four directions that you'll see in a slide that says strategic directions and action plans. And I'll go through them individually, so I'm not going to read the whole group of them out. But the first strategic direction is to scale up, to do more of just enough support. And I think that there are two or three important points there. One is it's certainly part of the mission of the organization to see that more individuals experience a good life because they have the right kinds of support at the right time. Inherent in that, I think, is building on some of the things that Live, Work, Play has been doing for years in terms of assisting people through technology, and also some of the ways in which the pandemic has caused us to learn about virtual support. Those kinds of things are going to help going forward. I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time on the just enough support model, but what it is a customized way of looking at each individual and providing support where needed, but not trying to fit the person into a service which then requires them to take a whole lot of stuff that they really don't need, or in some cases actually inhibits them. So it's a very customized type of process, and it's easy to talk about. It's harder to work at on the ground, because most of us have become accustomed to doing our registration, going into the program and getting a whole ton of stuff and just taking whatever is given to us, whereas this approach very instrumentally goes at individualized, customized type of work. I think last but not least, I think just enough support direction is going to require the organization to show why the approach is consistent with current funder directions, or if people are investing in social impact, why it makes sense. So you'll start to see some business language creep into the conversation about where the organization is going. And it makes sense, because right now we're pretty sure that the money that's spent by the provincial and federal governments on disability services has got to be spread over more people. And they are under tremendous pressure to show that it actually does some good. In order to be able to continue to get some of that money, we need to be able to show that we are doing a good job with the money we get. So it's going to require that competency to be ramped up. It's not about making everything about money, but it is about acknowledging that in human services, we have to demonstrate value for money, and that the technologies we're using do make sense in terms of being efficient as well as effective. The second direction in terms of employment is to build on the strong base that's been established in work with the federal government and community employers. LiveWorkPlay has taken a strong stance on their employment services relating to real jobs with real pay. And I think that's tremendously important. The involvement of LiveWorkPlay is in engaging people with intellectual disabilities and autism in the labor market. In other words, the work that you do contributes to a community prosperity. It's not a disability service per se. And that's not just a semantic conversation. That's really what we're trying to do. I think that the emphasis over the next 3 years will be on, documenting and improving our capacity to create real jobs, or to support people in creating real jobs for real pay. The benefit, of course, is that individuals experience a better quality of life and increased social participation and economic prosperity. And I think the third thing, and this contributes to another one of our strategic directions, which I'll address in a minute, is LiveWorkPlay has increasingly been called upon to kind of speak about how do you do this stuff. And so I think that the work on the ground in this area helps inform LiveWorkPlay's ability to build its capacity to influence and to contribute through consultation and training. Certainly in terms of how the technologies and the techniques have worked. The third direction, and I just referred to this, was it's become evident that there's a demand for learning about the ways in which LiveWorkPlay organizes itself, the way in which it provides employment services, about its just enough support approach. And so it's going to cause us to have to basically be pretty self-critical, document about how we do those things, find out where the learning needs are and where the markets are for support, and test out whether or not consultation and training on a more formalized basis is actually a core part of the offerings for LiveWorkPlay. Up to this point in time, it's been done pretty substantially on a on-demand basis, but we really haven't looked at it too much as a line of business, so to speak. The way we've been going about it, it's been good for the promotion of the organization, and it's helped a tremendous number of people out, but it also draws on the capacity of the organization to do good work. And so you got to make sure that if you're going to be engaged in this kind of work, that you do what's useful, but there's also some return on the investment that you make. So in a sense, you can look at LiveWorkPlay's engagement and training, consultation, organizational development, thought leadership, whatever you want to call it, as a social enterprise. The notion here is not to make boodles of money, but it is for generating some kind of a margin in order to reinvest in research and development and program development for the organizations. The last strategic direction that the organization is going to undertake has to do with, I think, what it already does, and that is it puts the community first, and it exemplifies an organizational approach that says our job is to build a better community, and the delivery of services helps do that. And so there's a couple different strategic pathways within this direction. The first is continuing to work with organizations like MHI and Centertown Citizens, and to work with them on the inclusion of folks with disabilities in the Ottawa and area community. I think a second is to leverage broader networks and movements. And just to cite a couple, LiveWorkPlay has been instrumental in a provincial movement which involves largely community living organizations to help promote the journey, if you will, that people with disabilities are on from clienthood, presence in the community, to citizenship. But I also think it goes beyond that. LiveWorkPlay is connected to the asset-based community development movement, and also to some other forward-looking organizations that are looking at how communities support people rather than service systems supporting people. So it's participating both at the local and the broader levels. And I think it would be fair to say that this kind of direction has a strong relationship to where you may see some of the investigations go with consulting and training, because some of the conversations we've had are that the sharing and the training that LiveWorkPlay might do might not find a market or receptivity in places in Ontario, at least in the short term, but they may in other places that are really challenged to change their systems, and are doing so. For instance, the United Kingdom may find a fair market there. So what you may see evolve here is that the movements that LiveWorkPlay is part of are not just local, but they're more global or international. And at this point in time, the seeds are in the ground on those kinds of directions. But I think what we've talked about is a cautious, thoughtful approach to broadening the influence and changing the business model for the organization, so that we never forget that our first objective is to support citizenship and community growth in the Ottawa area. So that's kind of the gist of where things are going. In terms of where things are headed on this plan, as I said, we're pretty close to being able to document it and to talk about implementation. But part of the purpose of presenting this here tonight is for you to have a look at what we're doing, to ask questions, to make comments, express concerns, those sorts of things, because that's important for the board and leadership of the organization to hear. But I can tell you from what I'm seeing, I'm very optimistic about our ability to document this plan and to have it approved by the board within the next month or so. And then what we're looking for LiveWorkPlay to do is to continue to push the boundaries, to change, but to build on what's working, to monitor, to listen, and to adjust. And overall, and as the organization has shown that it can do, to help create a more inclusive new reality. So thanks very much for inviting me to participate tonight, and tremendously grateful to be involved with your organization. Thanks.
I don't know about that, Mike. He's not thorough enough, but that'll have to do for now. So coming up, we've got Kate Sherwood on behalf of the Governance Committee.
Report from the Governance Committee. The governance committee was comprised of board members Bridget Fitzpatrick, co-chair, Lori Hogan, co-chair, Kate Sherwood, Michelle O'Doherty, as well as executive staff co-leader Keenan Wellar, who also serves as secretary to the board. This committee met monthly throughout the 2019-2020 board term, and what follows is a summary of our highlights. Executive staff performance evaluation. The governance committee continued the executive staff performance evaluation for the second year, with quarterly coaching sessions in July, October, and February, moving to weekly check-in calls when COVID-19 changed how we support each other. The sessions involved discussions and coaching that allowed for direct communications between the co-leaders and board members about identified goals, as well as any changes that required shifts in goals and priorities. This committee and co-leaders agreed that the process continues to support the co-leaders and allows a steady flow of information between the staff and the board on an ongoing basis. The governance committee plans to continue this process going forward. Ongoing board recruitment. This year, the governance committee continued to work hard identifying potential board members. We added a recruitment channel through the engagement of the volunteer coordinator. A message was sent to all volunteers about upcoming opportunities, and the volunteer coordinator provided the governance committee with prospective board members. With both Lori Hogan and Bridget Fitzpatrick retiring from the board this year, Andrea Saldhana and Carole Sheppard have agreed to stand for election at the AGM 2020. Board effectiveness feedback. The governance committee continues to oversee the board effectiveness feedback process. In April, the governance committee recommended a quarterly review with a shorter monthly evaluation. Governance committee members Kate Sherwood and Bridget Fitzpatrick are leading the process to improve board evaluation, how to collect and share the information in a meaningful way. Supporting new board members. This year, the governance committee recommended transitional support for new board members. Each new board member was paired with a board buddy. The board buddies met as needed and provided guidance and support and advice to new members. With upcoming changes to the board membership, the board buddy system will continue as a means of welcoming new members and helping them understand the role of the board and what the board is looking to achieve in 2020-2021. Supporting the board of directors development. Each year, the governance committee recommends learning and development activities for the board. This year, the governance committee recognized that there are significant changes being proposed and supported engaging with One Step to provide board education. The presentation from One Step provided the board with perspective on the upcoming changes to funding within the sector, experiences and best practices from other jurisdictions, Canadian and international, and recommendations on how to remain an organization providing relevant services and supports. As co-chairs for the governance committee, we would like to thank our colleagues for a productive and always interesting year. Bridget Fitzpatrick and Lori Hogan.
Kudos to the governance committee, got that done in 4 minutes. And next up, stewardship committee, which is aiming for 5. Let's see.
Committee report for 2019-2020. The Stewardship Committee for 2019-2020 was comprised of board members Christine Felteau, Robin McIntyre, myself, Daniel Spagnolo, and executive staff co-leader Julie Kingstone. The mandate of the committee is to meet applicable federal non-for-profit, incorporation, and registered charity obligations, and to assist the board in discharging its oversight responsibilities with respect to finance, audit, investment, and risk. The 2019-2020 year was very productive, with the following key highlights to be shared. The Stewardship Committee's ongoing oversight duties throughout 2020 included the review of the annual budget, the review of quarterly comparative financial statements, the review of the budget variances and year-over-year comparisons, the receipt of executive staff updates on funding proposals, the completion of the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services Risk Assessment and Transfer Payment Agency Reconciliation, also known as the TPAR, and meeting with the auditor for pre-audit checklists and a review of the 2019-20 fiscal year. The Stewardship Committee continues to build on the foundational elements critical to the long-term success of the organization, which include fiscal responsibility and risk management. The financial and administrative processes are managed by executive and management teams, with the operational results being reviewed by the committee on a monthly basis, and compliance and financial audits being reported annually as required to the Stewardship Committee. The committee wishes to note the competencies of the entire staff team with respect to the 2 audits which were performed this year. Firstly, the annual quality assurance measures, known as the QAM audit, was conducted by the Ministry of Children's, Community and Social Services in February 2020. And LiveWorkPlay was issued a certificate of 100% compliance without any issues identified for remediation. The committee wishes to note the competency of the entire staff team with respect to the 2 audits performed this year. Firstly, the annual quality assurance measures, the QAM, audit was conducted by the Ministry of Children, Community and Social Services in February, and LiveWorkPlay was issued a certificate of 100% compliance with no issues identified. Secondly, a new audit on employment supports compliance by the Ontario Disability Support Program also took place in February and resulted in a 91% compliance rating, with only minor issues noted that are easily resolved. Over time, the Stewardship Committee will continue to develop, review, and refine financial measures as deemed appropriate. Risk identification and management. As part of our ongoing activities to advance the foundational elements in sound governance, a process for risk identification and management was developed during the year. A quarterly risk dashboard was created to actively monitor external and operational risks across all activities and operations, including a 120 to 180-day view of key risks and change initiatives with risk mitigation plans. Initiatives in progress. The Stewardship Committee is excited for the opportunities that lie ahead. We know that our work is important to the organization, and we continue to strive for excellence by effectively managing risk and planning for a secure future. Current initiatives that will continue into 2021 include a full policy review. This activity, along with the evolution of financial KPIs, or key performance indicators, will provide LiveWorkPlay with the opportunity to streamline its operations and improve efficiencies. In addition, the global coronavirus pandemic, COVID-19, and its rapid evolution has placed an enormous pressure on organizations, including LiveWorkPlay. Executive staff and employees have quickly adapted to the situation, taking steps to safeguard their people, our members, and resources, executing on crisis management plans and addressing the day-to-day needs of the organization, our employees, and members. Specific to the Stewardship Committee, financial resources are being monitored to ensure continuing operations and internal controls to ensure we maintain a control environment with appropriate accountability. In conclusion, our governance model at LiveWorkPlay is solid and reflects the foundation of fiscal responsibility and risk management. As we move ahead, our strategic plans, we will continue to build upon the foundational elements and strive to further secure our success with core strategies to meet the challenging landscape of our sector. In closing, the Stewardship Committee recognizes that we would not be able to attain our objectives without the invaluable contributions of our engaged committee members, executive staff, and employees. Thank you very much.
Okay, I gotta go get Julie ready for the report on operations. Julie, you're up.
Hi there and good evening. It feels like it has been so long since we've gathered together. I miss you. I am Julie Kingstone, co-leader and director of operations here at LiveWorkPlay. I'm going to take a little bit of time tonight to summarize the work we have done over the last year that is related to our strategic plan. Negotiating right relationships with members and families. 3 or 4 highlights from the year include: we completed Just Enough Support video series, which outlines LiveWorkPlay's approach to support, as well as updated all of our promotional materials, website, intake process, and presentations. We've also met with families and individuals to increase clarity and understanding regarding the supports that we offer. And we've also integrated technology to enhance the support we provide. Sustainable and mutually beneficial strategic partnerships. This year, we have really focused on formalizing and strengthening our partnerships with 2 local nonprofit housing providers, Multi-Faith Housing Initiative, or MHI, and Centertown Citizens Ottawa Corporation, or CCOC. We have been working with them to strengthen our partnerships to help advocate and increase access to affordable housing for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as helping them coordinate volunteer programs and tenant engagement strategies that are more welcoming and inclusive to all tenants. We have also been focused on building a partnership with the federal government of Canada to formalize hiring of job seekers with intellectual disabilities and autism. This has resulted in over 100 jobs. Sustainable portfolio of supports and services. We've been spending a lot of time this year trying to better understand 2 significant system transformations that will impact on the funding of our work. Changes to how employment supports is funded in Ontario are underway in 3 regions and will be coming to the rest of the province next year. There will also be changes to how developmental services funding works, but there are a few details publicly available, but will be coming in the next few years. There is a lot of uncertainty, but we have been focusing on building our ability to deliver quality, relationship-based supports in the areas of semi-independent living, community participation, and employment, and hope this will position us well into the future. Building a leaderful organization, investing in quality people and training. Over the last year, we have completed succession planning for executive staff positions, as well as senior leaders and board members for both regular succession planning as well as emergency succession planning. We've also been working with the Governance Committee to implement and manage activities related to the board building cycle, which is really about recruiting new board members and retaining board members over the long term. We've also been looking at staff retention strategies and are happy to report that the goals we had in mind have all been completed. We have secured an improved supplementary health and benefits plan. We have secured the ability to offer annual cost of living wage increases to staff. And most recently, we've joined the OP Trust Select Defined Benefits Pension Plan recommended by the Ontario Nonprofit Network. And we've also completed enhancing leadership capacity training with all staff. We all feel that LiveWorkPlay is now able to offer decent work practices that are sustainable over the long term. And lastly, promoting a welcoming community and reducing barriers. We spent some time participating alongside other broader advocacy movements this year, including the Alliance to End Homelessness, the Ottawa Administrators of Volunteer Resources, a provincial network called One Step, which focuses on employment, all advocating alongside others in our neighborhoods, communities, and province to ensure that people with intellectual disabilities and autism are not forgotten and are part of the conversation and priorities to reducing poverty, accessing affordable housing, and being active members of the labor market. We have also completed over 50 inclusion workshops with employers to help employers develop their own capacity to be more welcoming and inclusive of all employees. And we've also participated in the provincial network called Presence to Citizenship, which advocates for person-centered approaches and system transformation. We've also conducted 15 presentations or shared information with other organizations who are interested in changing the way they do things and transforming their own approaches. A little bit about the times of the pandemic. So glad to report we have all remained healthy and no one has become ill with COVID-19. I wanted to thank everybody that we support, family members, staff, and volunteers, how you've all come together to support one another to get through this most challenging time of our lifetime. With the number of cases continuing to decrease and restrictions starting to loosen in the community, we are all looking forward to returning to seeing you more in person and in the community. We look forward to continuing to be a part of your lives, and we hope in the coming months we'll be able to continue exploring new possibilities to live, work, and play in the Ottawa community. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Now we got to track down Alex Anna, Grace, and Jen all at the same time. Everyone ready? Okay.
Hi, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Alex Darling, People Connector and Volunteer Coordinator for the past 8 years. And I wanted to take this opportunity to thank all of our incredible volunteers, past and present. While we celebrated our volunteer team on social media a couple weeks ago for National Volunteer Week, I just wanted to give everyone tuning in a quick update about our volunteer team. Currently, we have 153 volunteers, which is up 11% from last year. 68 of those do Friday nights, and we have 85 one-on-one matches. Some volunteers even do both. Friday night volunteers collectively have done 6,630 hours this past year, and matches have done 4,420. Retention-wise, most Friday night volunteers stay connected with LiveWorkPlay for 1.6 years, while matches tend to stay connected for an average of 3 years. This is truly amazing, and we couldn't do the work we do and have the wonderful community that we do without you. We are so grateful. Cheers to volunteers.
I'd like to do a quick thank you to the community partners. I'm Grace Hudson, the team lead for Community Connector team. I've been with LiveWorkPlay for 15 years, and I'd like to take this opportunity. 2020 audience, our thanks to community partners. I won't be able to list them all, but here are a few. Meals on Wheels Ottawa, Centertown Citizens Ottawa, Multi-Faith Housing, Nepean Housing, Ottawa Tool Library, Parkdale Food Centre, Moneywise at Ottawa Booth Centre, St. Anthony's Banquet Hall, and the Pearly Rideau Health Centre. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Nelson, and I'm the team lead with the employment team here at LiveWorkPlay. I've been with the organization for just over 3 years, and I'm super excited to be part of such a wonderful team and wonderful organization. I want to take this opportunity to update everybody here with some stats from our employment team over the past year. We are supporting 200 members, actively involved with 140 workplaces. We have secured 69 new jobs over the past year and are also working to maintain 110 jobs from previous years as well. We are working hard with employees to help them develop more inclusive practices for all their employees and seeing great results with this as well. It is a challenging time right now for sure, but we continue to stay connected to our employers and their employees. And we are also looking forward to when the job market gets back on track and connecting more people to workplaces then as well. Thank you all for coming tonight. Have a wonderful evening. Stay well, stay healthy, and stay connected.
Hi there, everyone. Jen Soucy here, Manager of Employer Partnerships, and I've been with the organization now for 14 years. Building on Anna's comments, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Employment Task Force and the Federal Employment Strategy Group volunteers. We've been so fortunate to have your support over the years, and without all of you, we wouldn't have reached all of our amazing employment milestones, such as 100 jobs with the federal government this past January. We now have had the unique and distinct pleasure to support jobs for members with intellectual disabilities and autism in 34 Canadian departments and agencies, something that has never been done before and we are so very proud of. I would also like to thank all of our private sector employers for your years of support and for helping so many of our members achieve such a meaningful opportunity to fully participate and be included in our communities. Thank you to Shopify, TD Bank, Parliament Cleaning, The Works, Peter Pitt, Welch Accounting, the list goes on, and I'm sorry I can't mention you all by name tonight, but from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. For all of those business owners, managers, heads of HR, co-workers, we want to let you know that we are thinking of all of you during this difficult time, and we will continue to be here to support you now and into the future.
Okay, awesome. Now I got to track down Keenan Wellar. Oh, boy.
Our communication strategies and the platforms we use are extensive and include, of course, our website at liveworkplay.ca, which we updated this year to meet all the new accessibility standards, but also because it was time to refresh it. This was no small feat, but it got done with a minimum of interruption and has been very well received in terms of popularity, but also by those who use different accessibility software and programs and are now better able to access our site. We continue to use MailChimp for our email blasts, which I use for our family and public newsletters, and Alex Darling uses with volunteers. We use ShareVision for confidential records, including each of our members' plans. We use the Slack interface for about 3,000 staff communications every week, which allows us to interact much more efficiently and effectively than email. Dropbox for file storage, and of course, you all know a lot more about our use of Zoom video conferencing after everything changed in March. Our active social media platforms include Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has the most growth of those channels in 2019-2020, but Facebook remains at the core of how most of our members, families, staff, volunteers, and partners choose to connect and collaborate. And I'm going to give you a whirlwind tour of significant moments of the past year. It's a crude measure, but basically all of these posts reached in the area of 1,000 people or more. So we start going all the way back to last May and Make a Buzz Ottawa 2019. This event traditionally generates a lot of interest, but I was particularly pleased to see that our award for advocate David Werrimy, who lives in Winnipeg, was a very popular item, and it's great to see we're able to bring deserving attention to someone who is not a part of our immediate community here in Ottawa. Next up, National Accessibility Awareness Week is not being an event where people with intellectual disabilities and autistic persons have necessarily felt included, but we are trying to help change that, and our event with the federal government last year and related announcements generated thousands of views. The next three are sort of in the surprise category in terms of their popularity, but what we see here is how connection to other communities of interest helps boost our own messages, whether it is connecting with football fans, home repair enthusiasts, or just passing along a message shared by our friends at St. Mary's Community Living. Together, these reached more than 5,000 people. Next up, our participation in the Canadian Association for Supported Employment Conference, conveniently located in Montreal this year. It generated a series of very popular posts, and because of this interest, something as simple as a photo of one of our employment task force meetings reached more than 1,500 people. There's really nothing like human interest stories, and these two posts about volunteer matches, plus Martin and Francis raising gobs of money for LiveWorkPlay through their relationship celebration fundraiser, topped more than 5,000 views. A couple of interesting examples here. Just sharing a message about Pride Week and a photo of an information event we helped host at the IRA Center, generated over 1,000 views each. And once again, we see that's due to making connections beyond the immediate LiveWorkPlay network. The Best Ottawa Business Awards, well, that's over 16,000 views with just these two posts alone. I realized that many of us had reached and enough already back in November and December, but honestly, it wasn't my fault. The story just kept getting picked up and shared again and again, including by Update Friday at Community Living Ontario, which covered many of our stories and brought us additional audiences. Back to straight up human interest stories. Thank you to Jillian and Daniel for giving us permission to share these, and let this also serve as an invitation. We'd love to hear from you with your news. And this includes a piano recital and a moving out anniversary. And again, that's over 3,000 views and lots of comments. An employment theme here, we really busted our buns to put together a 100 jobs celebration with our partners at Health Canada and employee Heather Kidd. But it was totally worthwhile for so many reasons, including over 7,000 views. I participated in a webinar about employment with the Family Support Network for Employment at a video shoot in Toronto for a webinar that aired later, and we also launched our new Employment Profiles initiative, and that's another 5,000 views right here on this page. Just wrapping up the year and actually moving a bit into 2021, we've done our best to help our own community as well as others with COVID-19 information. which includes everything from government policy announcements to internal work in cooperation with members and families. I can't wait until next year to talk about Make a Buzz 2020. I got to talk about it now. It was not what any of us wanted, and we all miss our meals together and companionship at St. Anthony's, but I just want to thank everyone who came through with all the great interviews and support for the event, and 25,000 views on these 3 videos alone. In conclusion, please keep on sharing. Whatever platform you prefer, I look at items like our recent blog that Alastair talked about at the beginning of this meeting, or the new promotion we've used to generate interest in our job search for members. And I see 25,000 plus views, and I know that you are all a huge part of that. It's you and your networks that makes it happen, and let's keep it up in 2021. It's going to be more important than ever. Thank you.
Okay, I know the voting members just waiting for something to do. So good news, we're going to hear from the candidates in a minute, but because there's 7 candidates for 7 positions, I need a motion for voting on the candidates as a slate, which means basically you vote for all 7 at once. So moved by Barry Weller. Seconder, go with Kathy Velasquez. Past president. And all in favor? Secretary, seeing a majority, announces this as approved, and now we shall meet our candidates. I got to get 7 people organized here, so give me a second.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle O'Doherty, and it's great to be here tonight, or virtually here tonight, for our annual general meeting for 2020. I've been on the board since September of 2016. I've served on the board for 3 terms since then, and most recently, I've been co-chair with Danny over this past year, 2019-2020. And I'm very excited to stand for re-election again for this year coming up for 2020 to 2021. I currently am a lawyer. I've been in Ottawa for a number of years, including doing my undergrad as well as my law school degree. And at that point in time is when I first got involved with LiveWorkPlay during law school in 2009. So LiveWorkPlay has been part of my life now for over 10 years. As a member of the governance committee and as a co-chair this past year, I believe that I can apply my experience and my expertise in the board continuing this year, continuing on the governance committee, and I plan to contribute to the work of the committee and assisting the chair of the governance committee as well as all other board members in any way that I can. As I said, I originally started volunteering with LiveWorkPlay in 2009. I started off as a Friday night volunteer, and I've done also one-on-one matches. I started volunteering with the board initially in 2016 because I strongly believe in this organization. I strongly believe in its mission, and I strongly believe in the values that the organization has, and I want to see this organization thrive in the future, and I want to be able to be a part of that to make sure that the organization continues to be successful thought leaders and expanding their reach out beyond Ottawa. I'm hoping to return for 2020 to 2021 to continue the work that we've been doing this past year. We've started work on our strategic refresh, and I'm excited to begin work on this, going into the action plans for the strategic directions. And I look forward to supporting our mission and vision with our members, our families, the volunteers, the staff, and all of the other board colleagues that I know will be either rejoining hopefully this year or joining for the first time. I have really missed seeing everyone at the family feast. I've enjoyed going to all of the different activities over the years and getting to know the members and their families. The AGM, the Make a Buzz this year, being done virtually, was definitely a different experience, but I'm excited for what 2020 and 2021 hold, and I hope that we can all see each other very soon.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Spagnolo, and it's great to be here tonight for the 2020 Annual General Meeting. I've been a board member since 2015, and I'm excited to be standing for re-election this year. I currently work at the Office of the Auditor General, and my background is finance and economics. As a member of the Stewardship Committee, I can apply my experience in financial accounting and risk management and contribute to the work of the committee and the board in general. I originally volunteered through the Employment Task Force with Jennifer Soucy in approximately 2014, and since then I've been very impressed with the work of this organization. I'm hoping to return for 2020 and 2021 to continue the work that we've started on our strategic directions, and I look forward to supporting our mission and our vision with members and family and friends, volunteers, staff, and my board colleagues. I really miss seeing you at the Family Feast events, and I look forward to getting together with you again soon.
Hello, my name is Christine Felteau, and it's great to be here tonight for the Annual General Meeting of 2020. What I want to talk to you about tonight is why I'm interested in continuing with the LiveWorkPlay board. LiveWorkPlay has been an integral part of my life, starting with a personal situation with an extended family member and involvement with LiveWorkPlay members while I was working for MBNA. The partnership with LiveWorkPlay has always been very special to me, and one I was very proud to support through volunteer work and events to raise awareness and funding, and I've now continued over the past 3 years through my work as a member of the board of LiveWorkPlay. I feel very fortunate to be part of an organization that is highly regarded for helping people feel inclusive in our environment and flourish as a valued contributor and work to continue to advance these opportunities. I feel that one of my core values of people helping people meets the values of LiveWorkPlay. From the vantage point of what I can offer the board, my professional experience, in addition to the invaluable experience I've gained as a member of the LiveWorkPlay board since 2016 and as chair of the Stewardship Committee this past year, I worked in the highly regulated financial services industry for over 30 years in a variety of management and executive positions in various divisions, including operations, chief compliance officer, in charge of Privacy, Bank Act, and anti-money laundering. Post-retirement, I have committed to remain active through consulting with the Canadian Bankers Association and within the sporting community. In addition, I have worked with not-for-profit boards and organizations within the credit union financial system, and most recently with the sports community and for not-for-profit boards at MBNA. As such, I understand the importance of a strong governance structure and the fiduciary responsibilities of being a board member for LiveWorkPlay. I'm hoping to have the opportunity for 2020-2021 to continue to serve you, the members, as part of the board in the important work on our strategic priorities for the coming year and the continued advancement on your behalf of our mission and vision as an industry leader in a time of change and unprecedented global pandemic. Stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robin McIntyre. I have been on the LiveWorkPlay board now for the last year. It's been an honor to participate in the board. I have a background as a management consultant, but prior to that, I was the Chief Transformation Officer at the Ottawa Hospital and Regional President at Rogers Communications. So over the years, I've had the opportunity to develop skills in the area of financial management, strategic planning, and working on transformation programs. I think some of these skills and some of my experience have been really useful working on the LiveWorkPlay board. I think we've had an incredible year. We've worked really hard over the last year to really focus on how we can improve the organization while still staying true to the fundamental values of LiveWorkPlay. As we've experienced some of the changes through the COVID situation since March, it's been really great to see how the organization has responded, but it also has given us each a little bit of an insight into what it feels like to maybe be isolated from our work and our friends. And it's been tremendous to see the organization respond in such a positive way. Lastly, I would like to recognize Keenan and Julie's leadership. They are two people who are really dedicated to the organization and yet are never afraid to ask the difficult questions or to look at new and interesting ways of approaching the work and the discussions at the board level. So I hope you all have a great summer. Take some time to relax, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Kate Sherwood, and it's a pleasure to join you tonight for the 2020 Annual General Meeting. I have volunteered with LiveWorkPlay since 2015 through the Employment Task Force and was honored to be elected to the board in 2019. I currently work as a consultant for Rise Up Strategies, and my academic background includes degrees in international affairs and French. As a member of the governance committee, I'm able to draw on my experience working in both the private sector and nonprofit sector to contribute to the work of the committee and the board in general. I'm excited to be standing for re-election, hoping to return for 2020-2021 to continue the work we have started on our new strategic directions, and I look forward to supporting our mission and vision with our members, families, volunteers, staff, and my board colleagues. I've missed the opportunity to see and visit with everyone at family feasts and look forward to getting together with you again very soon.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Saldhana. I'm so pleased to participate in this year's annual general meeting. This is my first meeting, and I'm standing for election to the board. I currently work as a manager on climate change issues at Environment and Climate Change Canada. My academic background includes a Master's of Science in Planning from the University of Guelph, as well as a Bachelor of Environmental Design Studies from Dalhousie University. As a pending member of the Governance Committee, I'm keen to apply my experience in building diverse teams, finding donors, raising funds, and advancing biodiversity and climate change projects. I have experience in facilitating pretty challenging conversations with lots of different views and values. For example, I often work directly with Indigenous peoples on land and water issues across Canada, especially near the oil sands in Alberta. I'm really excited to contribute to the work of the committee alongside my colleagues across the board. I became a volunteer with LiveWorkPlay back in 2007 for the Friday night social activities. I was immediately impressed by the clarity of vision and the inspiring commitment of members and of staff. And over the years, I started to dabble in some other activities and got to know a little bit more about the organization. For example, I did some fundraising in my workplace, and I joined the Ottawa Race Weekend with members and volunteers, as well as attended some really fun social events. I got to know some of the families and the board members. I hope to join the board in 2020-2021, and I really look forward to contributing to their key activities, including the new LiveWorkPlay strategic directions. I really consider it a great privilege to work with this organization and to continue my support. They're always thinking about the big picture. They're always considering how to push things forward, and it's incredibly progressive. And it's about changing the community to be more inclusive, and just really excited to be here. So thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Carole Sheppard, and I'm pleased to be able to join you, even if it's in this remote sort of a way. I'm thrilled to be running for the LiveWorkPlay board. And I was asked to say a few words about my background. So professionally, I can tell you I'm a lawyer and I work for the Public Prosecution Service of Canada. I've worked there for many years. And we are what's known as federal prosecutors. We do mostly drug prosecutions, tax prosecutions, but I'm involved in what we call regulatory prosecutions, which is environmental offenses, offenses at the border, that kind of thing. So the non-drug work. So that's professionally. On the volunteer side, what I do outside work hours, well, one of my wonderful volunteer involvements has been with LiveWorkPlay. I've been matched with a LiveWorkPlay member since 2013, who's become a friend and gotten to know his family and felt part of that. And I've had a lot of fun And I just really enjoyed my time. And in connection with becoming a volunteer, I was able to see something of the way the organization worked. And I've been very impressed with it. Not only the mandate and the mission, but just how well run the organization is. And I've also, in the last 6 years, been on the board of Service Coordination Support. Many of you will know that organization. Its mission is to support people with developmental disabilities and children with autism in finding available resources and planning for the future of their choice. And just in the last couple of years, I've been the chair of the governance committee of that board. Prior to that, I had some involvement with another board of WaterCan, which is an organization devoted to water and sanitation projects in the developing world. I've had, as I said, such a positive experience volunteering with Live, Work, Play that when my time was coming to an end on the Service Coordination Board, I asked Alex Darling, the volunteers coordinator, if there was any vacancies expected on the Live, Work, Play board. And when she told me that there was, I just really relished the opportunity to become involved on the board level and use some of my experience gained previously to maybe make an additional contribution to the organization. And so I'd be thrilled to have that opportunity. Thank you.
All right. So I know you're disappointed, but the meeting is pretty much wrapping up. And we just need the voting members one more time. I need someone to move support for the candidate slate. I got Nancy and a seconder. I got somebody different, Josh Balanisser. Great. All in favor? Seeing a majority, we shall declare the new board elected. Woo! And then, oh yeah, I'm not allowed to adjourn the meeting without members either. I need a motion to adjourn. Norva. And I need a seconder. Carolyn. She didn't look very enthusiastic, but she did put up her hand. All right, all in favor? Awesome, the meeting is adjourned, and if you want to talk, I'm going to release you from your cloak of silence. How do I do that? Allow.
Hello.
Woohoo!
Hey.
Those hats. Vocal silence.
I see a puppy on screen.
Oh, it's Mr. Stratton.
Brian, how are you?
I'm good.
Where's Keenan?
Hey, Coop.
Hi, everyone. Where's get those hats?
Hey, hi, Cooper.
Carolyn.
Hi, Carolyn.
Where's get those hats?
Hi, everyone.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, Cooper.
Hello.
Hi, Marie.
Hi. How are you?
Good, you?
Hey, Marie.
Hi.
Hi, Heather.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks,
all
Ross.
awesome.
Wendy.
Awesome AGM. Woo!
Yay! What's going on?
It's Heather.
Woo! Yay, Heather!
Yay, Heather.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hi, Marie.
Hi.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
A lot of people on.
Yeah.
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 I'm going.
Hi, Ron.
Hey, Carolyn, here's my mom.
Hi.
Oh, there's your mom.
Where are you? Oh, where are you? Hi, Margot.
Nice to meet everybody. Yes, I'm Margot.
Yeah.
Hi, Margot.
I spoke of you. Yeah, it's hard to remember names.
Yes.
Jen?
Your name is Carolyn. Carolyn.
Hello.
It's Allie. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Night, Anna.
Guys, night everybody.
Good night, John Boy.
Bye.
Have a great night. Nice to see you all.
Talk to you on Sunday.
Night, guys.
See you later.
Hey, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Hi, I already saw you today.
I already saw
I
you
already
too
saw
today,
you
Wendy.
today, and I already saw you today.
Oh, God.
Have a great evening, guys.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Marie.
Yeah.
See,
How's it
Ryan.
going?
Brand.
Good.
Good.
Marie. Ryan.
Bye.